Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. If you like what you hear, why don't you just go ahead and leave a like right there, share it to your friends, leave a comment below, and tell me what you think. That would be absolutely wonderful, and I would be eternally grateful for that. And by eternally, I mean thankful for the next until the next video comes up. Hi, everybody. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Joseph, aka Jan's Images. I am an old wedding photographer turned into writer. Now, the wonderful thing is that I've actually always been a writer. I never stopped writing ever since I was a little boy. When you had to, we had one of those things called DOL. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. We would write in these composition books, and DOL stand for daily oral language. So we would have to write it down, and then we would have to speak it out in front of the class. Writing the story down wasn't really of an issue to me. Speaking it kind of was. So I'm kind of breaking the mold here. Not the best public speaker in the world, but hey, whatever. That's why I don't want anyone looking at me. So I would always come up with imaginary stories in my head whenever I was out and about. And then I don't know why, it was just a way of me escaping reality, really. I I don't know what there was to escape. I didn't have like a horrible childhood. It was okay, but something inside me that just piqued my creativity, and I just wanted to dive in a lot more, and I wanted to dig in there and see what was there. You could turn I could turn a dirty trash can with a lid on it into a brand new portal into a world that nobody has ever discovered in their lives, and then one that I would be trapped in forever. And this is stuff that I would just play out in my head and alone for hours on end. I think one of the main things is that when I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of uh, kids or a lot of family members that were directly my age that lived in proximity to me. So, a lot of people were older than me, or a lot of people were a lot younger than me. So it was just kind of me in the middle of all of this shenanigans. And I think that's one way that I learned how to kind of cope with myself, and just playing with action figures and developing a whole plotted out storyline from beginning to end. Like, I knew which Power Ranger was going to be the winner that day, and I knew which Power Ranger was going to die that day. And yes, I was that violent. I would straight up kill these characters. If I had an action figure, I would freeze them, I would burn them, I would melt them, I would throw them, I would break their legs off and put them back on and then put casts on them. I was like that Sid kid from Toy Story. Fucking terrifying shit, man. It is wild. Anyway, so the real reason why I'm here today is to talk to you about my upcoming book called The Industry and the Writing Process. The Industry started back in 2000. I think I first had the idea for The Industry back in 2012 when I was still in college, and I was majoring in English literature, and I was just so fascinated by everything that I read except for Shakespeare. Sorry guys if you like Shakespeare. I mean, he's cool and all, and I appreciate what he contributed, but he's not like, my cup of tea. Anyway, I mean, I really appreciate, especially British literature and American ethnic literature too. And some of these pieces I just absolutely fell in love with. And another thing that I do love is contemporary fiction, contemporary literary fiction. And I'll, of course, maybe do something later on about what I like to read, but I will tell you that later if I get enough support and likes. Anyway, so I came up with this idea. I was a waiter for about maybe 7 or 8 years. I was a waiter, bartender, manager. I worked every position. I was a busser, a dishwasher, a host. I did it all. During that time, I was also having a hard time really trying to find my own sense of identity, because there's just so much going around. There was so much change. Even society itself was going through a huge shift in dynamics. I mean, we were getting out of recession. And at the start of my career as a server, I was in the middle of the recession that happened back in 08, 07. And, we were just sitting there. We were just bored waiters, bored young 20-year-olds sitting there wondering, what do we do now? And boy, we got some stories out of that. So it kept on going. And when a group of guys get together and say, hey, you know what, we should really write about our crazy exploits. That would be totally cool. We can make a show and everybody would love it. Oh yeah. Well, I actually sat down and did that. And that's what the story is about. It not only focuses on what goes on in the restaurant with the group of people, but it actually goes on and focuses on how they live. Oh my gosh. Did you hear that? Dear God. See, I'm in my closet right now, so this isn't fun. And I'm going to start again. Ready? Soundbite! So, essentially, I wanted to sit down and write down everything that happened to me. So I got the idea really from just sitting around and bullshitting with a bunch of people, after work. We went to this bar up the road, and they had what we called industry night. Industry night was if you're a server, if you're working in the service industry, if you're a manager, a busser, or any type of service industry. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so we had a bar that we would go to. They had industry night. It was on Sunday nights. So after the long, hard weekend, if you were any part of the service industry in a restaurant business, you would get a discount on your drinks when you went to that bar. So if you were a server, a manager, a busser, a hostess, although if you can't get in if you're a hostess unless you're, obviously 21 and up. But anyway, any part of that, you will get a discount. Yeah, so you would go into this bar, you work in a restaurant, obviously because you're still in your fucking uniform. You're sweaty, you smell like fried chicken, and then boom, here's your drink at a special happy hour cost. And that's what they called it, industry night. So this bar would always be packed, filled with restaurant workers. So you would see everyone that you worked with pretty much from all eternity because, restaurant workers, they often, jump ship to other restaurants and they go where their friends go. Well, at least that's how it was in my experience. So it was called the industry night. And that's kind of where I got the idea for the title of the book, The Industry. It is a particular type of industry that people work in. It's not the industry, quote unquote, but it is a industry. But in my book, it is the industry. So it does focus in on the lives of your waiters, your cooks, and your managers of your favorite restaurant and what goes on behind the scenes. And it really delves into the inner workings of their minds and how they cope with the reality of where they are. With that being said, I am going to tell you about the writing process. Now, the writing process, there is no wrong way to do it. Absolutely no wrong way. I find that you have to get a lot of things together first. If you actually want to write a book, write a book. Sit down. Here's the thing about it, though. You have to take the time. You have to have the discipline to do it and to finish it. NaNoWriMo, National Writing Month in November. That's a good opportunity for people to kind of race to finish in 30 days. Their aim is 50,000 words. That doesn't mean that you have to adhere to that standard. 50,000 words is just really a suggestive mark. Your book can be 100,000 words. Your book can be 20,000 words. It does not matter. You can write short story after short story after short story and then put them together. You just have to write. That's all it is. My writing process is literally sitting down at a table, any table, coffee table, dinner table, desk, a countertop, a bed with a pillow. I have a piece of paper or I have a notepad and I have a pen. Mind it, I have a very fancy fountain pen. It's an okay pen. $30, whatever. It's a TWSBI Eco. You should get one. This video is not sponsored by TWSBI Eco, but I have a TWSBI. I sit down and I write for however long that I can write, whether it be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or an hour. I just take one part of my day to literally sit down and write, whether that be journaling about my day or writing ideas or writing dialogue or writing a setting of a new story or characters, anything like that. I just sit down and I do it. Am I going to use it later on? I don't know. Who cares? But that's the beauty of it. You don't have to use it later on. because it's all part of a draft. It's all a part of a work in progress that you will hopefully, with this discipline, essentially finish later on down the line. So, my process, after obviously a whole broader overview and on what happens, once you write, you have to think, once you get to the point that you actually want to develop a story, you got to make sure you have your characters solid. You have to make sure you have your plot solid. Although, I will say, obviously, talking about a later video here, because this is just kind of a general introduction of what I'll be talking about in the upcoming weeks. Yes, you want to have your plot solid, although, you can play around with that, and, it's going to happen later on. Once you have that, you got your first draft done, you're going to have your second draft done, and you're going to get your readers done. You're going to hopefully find a good editor that you can pay, or someone who will edit for free. Or, maybe you can get a college student in your nearby local college and be like, hey, you want to be an intern for me and read and edit my book? You can do that. All you got to do is put a posting. People are hungry for that shit. There are so many resources out there, including this video. But with that being said, my best advice to any aspiring writer out there and anyone who just wants to escape, just find a place to sit down, give yourself a minimum of 15 minutes and type away on your keyboard or scribble away with your pen or pencil. Do it every day. Make it a habit. Once you do that, once you have enough, then you're going to be able to develop a story. It will come naturally. It will come with you. If you got a story to tell that's inside you, you have to be brave. You have to embrace it. You have to let it consume you. You have to look around you. You have to observe everything. You describe it. And it will come. That's it. That's fucking it, man. It can't be any easier than that. All right? Of course, after 365 days of writing for 15 minutes at a time, you're going to have something. You're definitely going to be able to have a piece of collective works that you're able to put together. And from then, you go into the next step, which is starting your first draft. Maybe it's starting your second draft. Now, as far as inspiration goes, I remember looking at this gentleman named Simon Stevens. He's a playwright. He actually has a very good idea on how to develop a story and how to come up with the story, and it's really what happens if an idea sparks inside your brain and it stays with you for longer than so many months. Like, let's say I'm just walking down the street and I'm looking at something and I'm like, oh, you know what? That would make a really good story. I don't have a pen. Oh, well. Doesn't matter. You keep going on about your day, and then a week later, it hits you again. Oh, yeah, I remember that thing that I thought about a week ago. Okay, maybe I have something here. Okay, I see you. And then you keep going. And then 1 month down the line, it's still beating you down. It's punching you in the face. It's saying, get me out of there. I need to be told. I need to be shared with the world. They need to know about this. Then you're like, boom, let's go. That's when it's time to write that first draft. That's when it's time to get serious about the story that you want to tell. And you can tell it. That's the beauty about it. Nothing's stopping you. Nothing stopped me. Well, actually, there were a lot of things that stopped me, but we'll get into that later. Now, for me, the writing, it took... Once I had the idea, and that was pure bullshitting for like maybe 4 years, even after I graduated college and worked various random jobs. I didn't actually start writing the project until 2015, when I actually had time to just sit down and write. And this was when my first daughter was born. And she was napping, of course, and I was at home spending time with her, spending time with the family, and I just sat there and all my free time I was just writing. That's what I wanted to do. And it came out, and it was a horrible mess. I did not write it in order, which I should have. I didn't write it in chronological order. I didn't even punctuate. I hardly even had chapters or sections divided off. I just threw it on a piece of paper, and there were just random sheets of paper throughout my house, sticky notes, leaflets, loose paper, computer paper, typed up documents, and it was all everywhere. First draft. That was considered my first draft. I turned it into a second draft, and I actually collected the work onto a document. That wasn't until 2016, 2017 where I actually sat down and put it all into one piece. Now, when that happened, I said, okay, well, maybe I have something here, so I'm going to go ahead and give it to someone to read to see what they think. I did that in 2017. They absolutely demolished it. And I was like, you don't know shit about writing, so I gave it to someone else. And they said the exact same thing that the person said before. So another thing about writing, you got to really put your ego down, because you'll get jacked up. You won't be able to survive. Anyway, so after the criticisms, I took a break from it, went through some personal things, and then once the opportunity came, I decided to rework it again. And, I made a lot of major changes, actually, and I, had to move things around. I had to completely omit sections that I wrote. I think I ended up omitting like maybe 4 chapters that were just not really relevant to the storyline at that point. So I just got rid of him. And, you'll come to find that there's things, when the editing process, all you're doing is slashing. Hardly will you need to add something unless you absolutely need it. But this was in my experience anyways. It was just slashing. Like, it's not relevant. You want to keep it to the point and concise. You want to keep the juice there. So a lot of that was... So basically, I shared it to maybe 3 or 4 different people, and they kind of gave me the same criticisms. And I was finally like, okay, fine. So, and then I deleted it, blah, 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 blah. So after I cut down all the meat, I was down to what I considered to be the core of the story. It was mostly there, albeit just a tiny bit of little changes left. So once I fixed it up myself, I went through it again. It's my 4th or 5th time going through it. I'm reworking it, I'm re-editing, I'm adding, phrasing. I'm working on phrasing this time, and punctuation, and I'm trying to get it as perfect as I possibly can. Of course, writing a book is very time-consuming, obviously. And it's, you're going to miss some things, obviously, especially if it's a project that's very near and dear to yourself. You're going to need that outside source to look at it and to re-edit and to make sure. This is a vital step that a lot of amateurs just skip over. You need eyes on that thing. Otherwise, you will miss some glaring fucking errors. And they will scream at you. And they will shout at you. And they will flip you off. And they'll be like, ha, fucker, you missed me. Ha. Anyway. So then, after I reworked it, I gave it to the editor one more time. I gave it to 2 other people. And of course, they found little inconsistencies that I needed to fix. That, of course, the story, albeit since this is the 4th or 5th edit, the story was there, the concept was there, everything, the core of it was there. It was ready. It was just those little things, just tiny little fine fixes that you need. And once you get those fine fixes, then you're ready to go. And that was my writing process for the industry. But like I said, 15 minutes a day. Right. Make it a habit. Turn it into a religion. Make it a point. You can do it anywhere. You can do it everywhere. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on a sticky note. You can even talk to your phone like I'm talking to this microphone right now in my closet because my kids are super loud. All of it. It's okay. Anyways, if you like what you hear, just go down there. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. I'm going to have new content coming out. And I'm going to go ahead and dive more into the industry and how to write and what it means to be a writer. Little nits and little tricks that I learned along the way of, of course, going through this wonderful, tumultuous process. And yes. Well, anyways, guys, it was nice talking to you. I love you all, and I can't wait to see you next time. Peace!